Thank you. So I know that some of you probably came and read the schedule and looked at it and said, oh, someone needs to tell her she's come to the wrong conference. But what if I told you that, that conversion might just be a conversation away with your users? So Natalie talked this morning a wee bit about, so I've only been in Dublin for a few hours, less than 24 hours. I'm already switching accents. That's what I do. I work in language and I sort of take it on. But I'm not trying to pose. That's just sort of what I do. So conversation design. We're entering this really exciting moment. I'm very excited. I've been a voice user interface designer for 17 years. I got involved in the industry because I was a technical writer, not a designer. And I actually started in it because I was a user in need of the technology. I have some nerve disorders that make it hard for me to use. I have a mobility problem with my hands, and so it made it hard to use a mouse as a tech writer, and I did a lot of mouse work, and I wrote this sort of primer for technologists at the time and salespeople to sort of understand what this technology was, and I found out that, I suddenly needed this technology because I couldn't use my mouse for a few weeks, and my boss got me this speech recognition software to put on my computer, and it worked terribly. It was really tedious, but as a designer, it was a very important lesson for me because I realized very, very early on that this is an enabling technology and it can actually be a fundamental way for people to communicate with technology who maybe couldn't with all the other devices we use. And then just to get it out there so it's easier for me to talk to you and not feel nervous, I will just share with you that then 2 years ago, this sort of came to the forefront again when I was diagnosed with a very rare form of oral cancer. A tumor was wrapped around my lingual nerve on the left side of my mouth. And my surgeon told me, you need to get used to the idea that you probably will never talk again. I'm fine. I had a very successful surgery that removed the whole left floor of my mouth. And through a lot of speech therapy, a really skilled surgeon who maybe didn't have the best bedside manner, but was very good with a scalpel, so that's good. I found that maybe there's even another use for this technology for people who can't use their own voice, and maybe people who have some sort of speech impediment or children with autism, and there are lots of potential enabling technologies for this as well. So just to stop and think about the kind of technology and the future we're going into, we've talked a lot about mobile. But there's just an entirely new phase of technology and devices happening now, and one of those key uses is for people who maybe aren't so comfortable with the other types of technology out there. So that's what I want to talk to you about. But first, we talk about it being a new age of computing. It's sometimes helpful to go back in time and see where we thought we were going to be now. So stepping back almost exactly 43 years, I'll tell you after we watch this video who it is, but I'm curious if any of you will know. So we can roll the video just for a moment to appreciate where we are today.
I brought along my son Jonathan, who in the year 2001 will be the same age as I am now. Maybe he will be better adjusted to this kind of world that you're trying to portray.
The big difference when he grows up, in fact, if we wanted to wait for the year 2001, is that he will have in his own house, not a computer as big as this, but at least a console through which he can talk to his friendly local computer and get all the information he needs for his everyday life, like his bank statements, his theater reservations, all the information you need in the course of living in a complex modern society. This will be in a compact form in his own house. He'll have a television screen like these here, and a keyboard, and he'll talk to the computer, get information from it, and he'll take it as much for granted as we take the telephone.
I wonder, though, what sort of a life would it be like in social terms? I mean, if our whole life is built around the computer, do we become a computer-dependent society and computer-independent individuals?
In some ways, but they'll also enrich our society because it'll make it possible for us to live really anywhere we like. any businessman, any executive could live almost anywhere on Earth and still do his business through a device like this. And this is a wonderful thing. It means we want him to be stuck in cities, we better live out in the country or wherever we please, and still carry on complete interaction with human beings as well as with other computers.
Who knows who that was? That was Arthur C. Clarke, author of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Someone was like, I was right. So it's pretty prophetic, right? It's sort of predictive. Hopefully the rest of his novel won't come true, but the people are worried about that. But so let's talk about why conversation. Conversation is an interface. It's the first interface we use, and it's the one we know best. So someone can learn how to talk to other human beings, or babies can talk to each other. Babies learn the voice, attribute a voice to someone. They can attribute a voice to their parents while they're still in the womb, and we learn to communicate, and it can stop there. There are so many. The literacy level in the United States is about 5th grade. Some argue it's a little bit lower, like 3rd grade. And that doesn't mean it's dumbed down. It just means it's colloquial and it's spoken language as opposed to the written, the written conventions of language. So it's what we know best. And so someone could never learn to read and write, but communicate and connect with other people. So the thing about sci-fi and Star Trek and all those, the thing about particularly Star Trek, I'm a huge fan of Star Trek Voyager in particular, is that it was never about gadgets and technology. It was about, it was set in space and on a spaceship and faraway worlds and had loads of gadgets, but it was about exploring what it means to be human, and it was about connecting with other cultures, whether they be on another planet or across the world. And all they did was invent technology to remove those barriers. So here we find ourselves again, sort of living that fantasy a little bit. Speech recognition technology is about as good as it's ever been. And still, we're only just a tiny bit there because we've gotten to this point where it's very exciting. We can now process almost incredibly accurately what people say, but what they actually mean, and all those unconscious shared understanding of context that between a human and a human used to communicate is a lot left to be developed still in human to computer interfaces. So voice brings with it 3 key things. One is speed and simplicity and hands-free experiences. So when Natalie talked this morning about cognitive load and things that get in the way of barriers and what button do I push and how do I process all this information, suddenly if you're in a voice interface, there is no button. She has one button back here to tell her to stop listening, but it's like a 0D interface. So that doesn't make it any easier to develop for. In some ways, it makes it a lot harder. But on the other hand, it also makes it almost infinite possibilities. What you do have to work with as a designer and as a business is that you can tap into people's just natural expectations about what communication is. And so you can use language and you can use all those affordances and make it a lot easier. It's also easy to design poorly if all you're doing is sort of translating a visual interface into a voice interface. So, but we've taken a long, if we look at the types of interfaces that we've had, spoken language has been around, of all the linguists that agree and have studied this, the actual spoken language as opposed to the ability to evolve to speak has been around an absolute minimum of 100,000 years. It's looking like a lot further back from what they can determine. We've been talking with chatbots and AI assistants for under 7 years, so if you were to translate. So which one wins? Which is the one that is so deeply ingrained in our DNA that it has an advantage for us and that we want to leverage. It's one of the things that humans do better than almost than any machine. We can teach we've taught computers how to fly a plane unmanned, go into outer space, to dig giant holes into the ground, but it's an incredibly daunting task to teach computers how to talk like we do and to understand and to process all the context that goes with it. So it's an incredibly large challenge, but it's also very, very exciting. So at Google, we're trying to be deliberate about this, and we care very much about starting with respecting the problem space and really looking at what it brings to the user experience. And we're translating everything that we've come to understand about the world and all the technology we've done through the metamorphosis of how we've moved along to a mobile first. That doesn't mean mobile's going away, it's just kind of progressing, and we feel this is sort of this natural progression into conversational interfaces and leveraging all of what we know and to move into more of a conversational type of commerce with artificial intelligence leading the way. So we've created the Google Assistant, which is a conversational experience between you and Google. It's like your own personal Google. It's an interface between, we brought together all the things that we've invested in over time to bring this to our users and to all the businesses that connect through us. So it's really just about the user, though, at the very end. So users want to connect. They want to find information. They want to play. They want to explore, and they want to connect with other people. Do the things they want to get done in their everyday lives. So right now, they use all of the services that we have. And we want that ecosystem to use the Google Assistant. You'd have access to all of those things, but all together rolled into one. Also, people want to get things done in their everyday lives because it's a lot easier to just, it's not just about being lazy and wanting to turn off the lights with the voice command. Going back again to the user and how voice can remove barriers and also allow you to do the things that matter most in your life. So maybe your hands are covered in something so you can be more attentive. You're cooking a meal for your family and you don't have to stop and go. Or maybe you want to hold your baby while you're walking up the stairs to put them to sleep. And it's as easy as switching off the lights. So it's about getting things done in your world, but removing those barriers. So what does this mean for all the businesses that also want to connect? Through all the services that all of you provide, connecting through voice is also incredibly powerful because it can connect directly from a user's intent. So our approach is very different than some of the other voice services out there because we don't need you to install anything. So we think that you can just connect through when you want to do something and you express that intent to do something, a service that you need, that you don't have to turn it on. You don't have to enable it. You don't have to install an app. The Google Assistant will find you the right service and connect that for you. So what does this look like? There are so many ways that when people first started interacting with Google Search might start just typing. They sort of learn to talk to the search engine to get it to the best result. And it looked something like, find me. It didn't even say find me. People just put restaurant, San Francisco, within 2 miles or something like that. And as the conversation, or as people started getting more, the engine started getting better and all the context around it started contributing to the search engine, delivering up the best results. Sometimes it's a lot easier to just ask very specifically what you're looking for, or really, I want to find restaurants that are nearby that serve really great Chinese food. So what we've created is a platform called Actions on Google, which is a developer platform that anyone from a hobbyist who just wants to sort of get started in this space or a student to a gigantic business that wants to leverage this as a new a new channel of communication with their customers. It's just getting started. We only just launched in December and we only have a few services available today. And it's launched in the US, but there's lots more on Google Home, but lots more devices to come. So there's 4 different areas of opportunity for brands. One is that it allows you to connect directly with your users. So imagine that you have, when a brand is trying to look you up and they want to connect, if they want to find out more about whatever it is you're selling or advertising, or before they want to make a decision to buy, maybe they have questions. So instead of looking up, your frequently asked questions, or looking for all these other affordances to make their questions known by, making all those decisions like, oh, how many stars does it have, and what are the reviews, and what have other people said, and all those things that they're trying to weigh. Imagine if they could just say, hey, can I talk directly to you through the Google Home, and the Google Assistant hands it over to your experience, and then you can just ask questions. Say like, when can you deliver it by, and or maybe it's not even questions about particular products. Maybe you just want to, in addition to announcing something that you're making available, maybe you want to create some fun quiz or something like that lets people get to know your whatever it is you're selling a little bit better. It also helps users get done with things done with your service. So sometimes this is different depending on, when I say catering to like a user's intent in the moment versus a feature or product. Take Uber or any of the ride-sharing type of services. If you want to meet a big group of people and you're kind of trying to do something very complicated where everyone's got to meet at a certain place and you're sort of in a new area and you're out and about and you want to pin it just very carefully on this corner of this street by this alleyway, and maybe the mobile app is better for that. But if you were trying to get out the door and you're putting your kid's coat on and you're just trying to really quickly request a ride so that you can get out the door, voice is really great for that, and you can just call 1 and 2 commands and quickly ask for it and you're out the door. Or maybe you are at the doctor's office and I don't know how it works here, but if I go to my chiropractor's office or my acupuncturist's office, there's always that at the end of the session, I have to, they write the little appointment down on the card, and I have to get out my phone and I have to put it in there and be sure and put travel time and all these things. So the real intent there isn't so much that I want to create an event in my calendar and do all these things. What I really want to do in that moment is just check it off, it's done, so that I can continue talking to the woman on the other side of the counter who I haven't connected with in a couple weeks. And so the real intent is I don't want to break that connection, so I just want to quickly say, new appointment next Friday at 5 p.m. with the chiropractor, and put it back in my pocket, never break eye contact, and continue talking. So when you're thinking about different use cases where someone can connect with your service, it's not just about, oh, I want to completely voice enable some feature. Maybe you want to just voice enable a few things that voice does really well, which is stuff that's speed, things that users can answer off the top of their heads, and things that they can do that are just habitual and things that are fast. Another is that we think this platform's really exciting because it is innovative and it is a new kind of era of computing, and we want to open that up and share that with everyone who wants to do that. So you can do that on our open platform. And finally, what's really, really great about a voice interface is that you can connect users to you more personally and through a persona or so when you create ads and you create an entire brand identity, you stand for something, right? You stand for certain characteristics. So for example, Google, one of the things we stand for is speed and objectivity and things like that. And so when you want those things to come across, as soon as you have a voice experience, every voice has an owner. And whether you plan for this or not, within a few seconds of a user hearing a voice, even if it's a robotic voice, will put some sort of attributes toward some sort of character. They'll conjure something in their mind. So you can either just let that happen and by whatever comes across, or you can be intentional about it and tie that to your brand and to present that to the world through some sort of character. And it doesn't have to be a caricature that's, got a name and kind of a Twitter handle and all these really go overboard in that way, but you can be very intentional about it and connecting with it. For example, there have to be, in Europe, I don't know if you have any brands that have like a very strong spokesperson in all the in the TV advertisements, for example, but in the US we have a few key ones that sort of stand out. Like the Mexican beer company Dos Equis, it has a character. Does anyone know who their spokesperson is? Yes. The most interesting man in the world, yeah. So people don't necessarily want to talk to Dos Equis, but they might want to talk to the most interesting man in the world and ask him questions and that. So if you, it's a really great opportunity to, whether it's in a chat experience, but voice in particular, if you create some character or persona to go with that experience, first of all, it connects users more to that brand and they can establish a relationship. It tells them a little bit about who you are. It also is a very useful tool because it can put guardrails around what kind of experience you develop. And it's a lot easier to write for a voice experience if you have a character to write for. I work a lot with developers and engineers, and when they finally get that sort of concept, they even say that it's a lot easier to build when they sort of building for a particular character in mind. So where do you start? Well, I know you're going to ask, well, when it's not available in Europe yet. But if you have any kind of user presence in the US, we recommend to just get started right away and test it out and learn in that environment. And that's one way. Another is just to explore and read. We've got lots of documentation and things online to get you started. But also just explore what it means to start hiring and exploring those possibilities in your organizations, because just as Arthur C. Clarke said, and the fact that sci-fi has told us that one day, if it's not 5 years in the future, a lot further in the future, we really think that people will be talking to things around us. The use cases might vary, but people will be talking because it's just easier under a lot of circumstances. So we're starting with the Google Home, and we're announcing more devices as we go and more countries as we go, but just keep following along. We have a lot of announcements coming up, but one of the things we just launched also was the Google Assistant on Android devices beyond just our Pixel. So it's definitely coming, and I can tell you that much, but I definitely encourage you to get started, and we're here to help. Like I said, we're on mobile now, and when you create an experience on Google Home, it looks something like this. You can, just like if you knew the web address directly, you could type it in the address bar. You can also just talk directly. You could put in your advertisements if you wanted to, okay, Google, talk to Dos Equis, or one of the examples is Headspace. You can say, talk to Headspace, and it'll say, sure, here's Headspace, and then a little sound will play. And then it'll say, hi, this is Andy. Let's take a moment. And you've got this whole experience with a new voice and an experience with Headspace. That was my really terrible Australian accent. So we also have, again, we care really deeply about representing and starting with design, persona, and really creating a good user experience. So we have our team put together a lot of white papers and design checklists and everything on our Actions on Google site. I in particular am responsible for the design site with loads of resources for you to get started just understanding this new world to develop in. And we also have on there a community you can reach out for help. And I guarantee you some of this stuff comes straight across my desk to help out because I really care deeply about getting good voice experiences into the world. So, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. Any questions? We've got the mic. Any questions in the room before I go digital on us? Anything? Awesome. There you go. You're going to catch? Oh, look at that. Teamwork.
Thank you for a great speech. Natalie said that what people do not want to do is insurance. I am so happy as I work in insurance. So my question, of course, is what do you think about insurance and your solution?
Sure. I think there are great opportunities in insurance. I could think of a couple of use cases right off the top of my head. It doesn't have to replace agents or anything like that, but maybe someone just wants to ask little questions that they don't want to ask, and look up on the site. There are things you can create like scheduling for someone to come look at, your water damage or whatever type of insurance you're at. But there's so many practical use cases that that you could build around. Maybe it's not like a trivia quiz about what kind of insurance you might need, but I've seen already applications where someone who just wanted to set up a chatbot that maybe would take the basic details from the user and then pass it along to an insurance agent who would then, it would get scheduled on their calendar and then they would follow up with them. So I think there's plenty of opportunities there for insurance, sure.
Thank you. Is any of the 150 examples you had up and running, is one of them insurance?
Say that again?
Do you know if any of the, you said we have 150 companies up and running testing the new solution. Do you know if any of them?
I don't think so. I don't think any insurance ones have deployed anything. There's a lot of the ones that are deployed. You can see them in the Google Home app, which, if you have it, is a lot of kind of fun things, quick answers, trivia games, things like that. But there are some practical applications, but people are just sort of exploring. But I work with a lot of partners and do workshops. I'm doing one in Paris with a bunch of partners in particular. I know there are some insurance people there. So it's definitely coming. So.
There is a question behind you. If you could just do the short throw. There we go. The safer option. Good stuff. Thank you.
With the @Uber and @that stuff, will there be a formal way of actually registering, or how is that decided at the moment?
Oh, right, like for the invocation name and that.
Yeah, will it become like domain names that we have to go out and register, or how is that going to be controlled?
Yes. So there's a little bit of a mistaken notion that this is sort of a land grab for the English language, and that's not it. I think that it's just like, if you've got a brand name and you've got, so Uber or, your specific brand name, you should absolutely use that. And then when you set up your application through Actions on Google, you can include all sorts of sort of discovery phrases that you think should sort of lead users to you. And the documentation walks you through that, but we recommend putting all those things that you think users would say that so they maybe don't know your name, but they know they want to do X, Y, and Z, and so put all those things in there. And then we're still figuring out the best way to do that, but we did get pretty good at it once upon a time with optimizing for search, so we think that we will optimize for delivering the best experience that the user needs who hasn't used your name.
So there's no official registration?
You have to, when you create an action, you have to register that within there. But it's not, if you use something like generic, like one of my recommendations is, I think there's a rule around you can't use just one word that's just in the English dictionary or something like that. Like you can't use some generic word and just have that be your invocation name. You need to use a combination or something that's with your brand. So there are guidelines that you can follow in the documentation, but if you're worried that your name's going to be taken because it's like, some really simple English phrase, there are rules against that anyway, so it's not as something to worry about as much as you might think.
All good. Okay, time is not on our side, so we'll leave it there. But folks, please give a round of applause to Nandini. Thank you.